In the early years of the 20th century, Manila had a novel form of transportation. They had steam-powered trams, or as it was previously called, the Tranvia. It was a one-of-a-kind transportation system back in the early days. It was a success for the country in terms of usability and estimation. This became a reality because of the King of Spain, Alfonso XII, where one day in 1875 he decreed the planning for a railway in the Philippines. But the construction was not seen until a tramway company called the Compañía de los Tranvía de Filipinas was founded by prominent entrepreneurs. The same company, later on, was renamed to what is now known as the Manila Electric Company, or Meralco. It was this company that constructed the tramways that would become the first ever steam train of the Philippines. It was renowned to be an impressive feat for the country. The transportation of goods and people was easier than ever before. The Filipinos said it was cheap, safe, and convenient. Come the new century, when the United States had established its presence in the country, a certain American businessman by the name of Charles Swift came to the Philippines to open up his own business and bought the company operating the Tranvia. During the time he owned the Tranvia, he expanded its operations by over 9.8 kilometers. However, despite the massive planning for this railway, it has unfortunately closed its doors after World War II, where the railway was beyond repair. It was during the same time that public transportation changed. But this change has also caused problems for the city, which is an increase in traffic congestions and would later lead to a major problem for the capital. By 1966, there was a call for the construction of the country's first monorail. There were several studies done from that year until 1977. It was to ensure that the creation of a monorail was actually possible. The Japanese International Cooperation Agency, or JICA, was there to help conduct transportation studies. Even the World Bank and Freeman Fox and Associates were helping to make this a reality. After several years of research, they concluded that it would cost a whopping 1.5 to 2 billion pesos. And only until 1980, when the government of the country had created the Light Rail Transit Authority, or LRTA, this was when they were trying to make the monorail a reality. They had gone to the Belgian government and companies to fund this project, where they were able to amass over 1 billion pesos. It was in September 1981 when the construction had finally started. Companies from all around the world had helped carve out the country's light rail transit system. December 1, 1984 was the day Line 1 had finally opened its doors to passengers and had come to success. It had a length of over 19.6 kilometers at that time and had a capacity of 300,000 passengers to 500,000 per day. Despite being heralded a success, it had its challenges. Just like every infrastructure out there will. It will have its own risks, especially when it got overcrowded and poorly maintained. It was in the year 1990 when cracks appeared. Thankfully, the cracks were fixed through refurbishment and expansion of the program. The rolling stock of Line 1 had changed over time. At first, its first generation was manufactured by Belgian companies. Then, in 1999, it had added trains manufactured by Hyundai Rotem and Adtrans. In 2007, it had added a new batch of trains yet again, which would come from Japanese manufacturers. Its next generation of trains will come in 2021, manufactured by Mitsubishi and a Spanish company. Older trains are actually still in use. Although they may seem unsafe, some of them had their rehabilitation finished, which deemed them a safe unit for usage. In the same decade, the construction of the next line, which is Line 2, has begun. This was constructed in several phases. The first phase finished its construction in 2003 and the second phase a year later. Line 2 had a daily ridership of over 580,000, which was more than Line 1. At the same time, Line 1 was going through a modernization to make it a grander transportation hub. By 2005, it was said that it was that year that ever since this light rail was constructed, it was the first time they had ever come out with a profit, and it was over 68 million pesos. Line 2 had quite an interesting story. At first, the construction was stalled because of several investigations related to corruption. Then, after its construction and during commercial usage, its ridership was below expected, and thus it had operated at a loss. And even at once, it was also dismantled and to be converted into a bus rapid transit. Thankfully, it wasn't continued. Line 2's rolling stock was always what it had used previously, which was manufactured by Hyundai Rotem and Toshiba. It only had gone through rehabilitation and improvements throughout the years. But as of recent years, however, the LRTA had acquired new sets of trains as Line 2 has finally had its extension nearing up. Although Line 1 and 2 had their construction finished years ago, their extension was only constructed as of recent years. Line 1's extension was known as the South Extension Project or the Cavite Extension Project. This extension was expected to start from Quirino Avenue all the way to Bacoor Cavite, which would span well over 11.7 kilometers. Though the extension was approved over 20 years ago in August 2000, its construction had only actually started in May 2017. This was because there were several problems with the project. There were right-of-way issues, bidding rejections from the government, and even the former president, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, had withdrawn from the project. The extension alone was a hefty one, where the project cost estimate was at 64.9 billion pesos. But this extension is expected to cater to well over 800,000 daily ridership, which is more than the current capacity of Line 1. Line 2's extension had a similar story. Its extension, which was called the West Extension, was approved in the year 2015, but never got its construction started because of several issues. It was only until 2019 when some form of movement came about. Its opening date, according to various sources, is expected at 2024. The Line 2 extensions were a lot cheaper compared to Line 1's extension, which stood at just 10.1 billion pesos. Yes, only Line 1 and 2 had been constructed and expanded, and nothing else more had been, except for one. It is called the LRT Line 6, a proposed transit system based on Cavite. This Cavite transit line, with a target date of completion by 2027, is the most expensive light rail transit system worth over 73.2 billion pesos, surpassing all the other transit systems except for the metro lines. This future rapid line would have a 23.5-kilometer track length and have a daily ridership capacity of over 200,000 people. As it is from Cavite, it is expected to be connected to LRT Line 1's extension. What is amazing, though, is that this 23.5-kilometer track connection is only the first phase. There will be over 4 other phases to be constructed as soon as this first finishes. In total, all the track length, starting from Bacoor all the way to Alabang, would result in the creation of 169 kilometers of track, setting one of the longest track creations in the National Capital Region of the Philippines. The rolling stock that would be used in this project is still unknown. However, what is noteworthy is that it may be operated by an automated gateway transit, or, in simpler terms, a driverless vehicle. The proposals come from several Japanese designs where they are trying to mimic Japan's transit system for this. The light rail transit has indeed come a long way. It has gone through several challenges, from financial difficulties to improper maintenance, but it has overcome those, and here it is, an up-and-coming grand project for the Philippines. But wait, there's more. Yes, you may have guessed by now that we have a video coming up about the history of the Metro Rail Transit and its current operations and its future endeavors. These future infrastructures are the likes of the Metro Manila subway and several more other lines, which would expand the current station capacity of just 13 to over 109, and its 16.9 kilometers of the track to over 196 kilometers. Anyway, what do you think about the history of the Manila Light Rail Transit System? Did you learn something new today? Was its future aspects a spectacular one to see? Share with us your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to leave us a like and follow us for more amazing videos. Thanks for watching.